The law changed in 1924. So in anticipation of that, there was a major Jewish immigration to the United States from the end of the war, 1919, until 1924. And my parents were among that group. They got married in 25. I was born in 1930. There was a big difference between my grandfather, who was ultra-Orthodox, versus my parents, who completely rejected that religiosity and over time, became confirmed atheists. So when I was born in 1930, my parents' background was completely non-Jewish, except that they only spoke, their normal language was Jewish, Yiddish, the Jewish of Eastern Europe. And their social life, their friends were all from that community. We lived in the Lower East Side. My father, his original occupation was to be a furrier. That community was heavily into needle trades of one sort or another. He happened to go into the fur clothing thing, and it turned out that he was allergic to fur. So he looked for a way to get out of it. And the way he found and satisfied his other needs was to be associated to the workmen's circle teachers. They had schools at that time, public schools, had a supportive policy to ethnic schooling, and they used to actually release children from regular day school to attend a cultural or an ethnic school. So my father, as a Yiddish teacher in the Jewish community, the kids would come out of the public schools at 1 o'clock Monday, Wednesday, and Friday for 2 hours of ethnic schooling. And that's where my father would be teaching. My father, being recently out of a training school run by the Workmen's Circle, teacher training, was shipped out from the New York organization to other towns, Cleveland, Philadelphia, to teach children's schools in those communities. They would go for a school year, 9 months, and then come back to the residence in New York in the summer. So my father, during the first 3 or 4 years of my life, would be out of town, mother alone supporting, caring for me in New York. Eventually, in 1934, he was offered a job in Los Angeles. And there, of course, the whole family went to Los Angeles. And it was steady work, even though it was very low paid. So, but steady pay, even at 15, 20 cents an hour, was something. It was, it may have been even thought of as being middle class, to be a school teacher for 15, 20 cents an hour, but on a contract for a school year for 9 months. We actually spent the summer in Yosemite one summer, in Lake Arrowhead one summer, in Redondo Beach one summer. It was really a rich, rich cultural growing up experience, even though it was dictated by poverty. What we would do is move out of the house, furniture and everything, and come back, you know, not pay the last month's rent, and come back 2, 3 months later into a new place, and move in what little furniture we had, and start life anew. Thinking back, we used to actually hitchhike. The whole family would hitchhike from Los Angeles to Yosemite because we didn't have a car at that time. We got the car for the first time at maybe 38. And as a kid, my parents were not ones that cried about the poverty, you know, that thought of themselves as being disadvantaged. They just did it. In 37, we moved to a different house, Evergreen Avenue in Los Angeles, where we ended up staying for 5 years. It was the first time we stayed in a single place and paid the rent, and were secure enough financially to be regular. That was our house, and our furniture and our life was in that house, in that community. We bought a house in Rosemead. It was about 20 miles east of downtown LA. And I had, from the time I was 11 until I was maybe 13, and a totally non-Jewish neighborhood. A neighborhood mostly populated by ex-Oklahoma and other Midwest farmers.
What was that like, being Jewish in that kind of neighborhood?
Well, I felt distinct. I felt separate, but not a problem. I knew that I had a different cultural thing from my neighbors. You know, my parents were not friends with their parents. My father still worked in downtown Los Angeles, whereas the other families lived and worked in that neighborhood. When I would have been in the 9th grade, which would have put me into the high school, we moved to Echo Park, Los Angeles. Only 1 mile from downtown Los Angeles. So in Echo Park, again, where we lived, it was non-Jewish, totally non-Jewish. There may have been one other Jewish family, but totally non-Jewish. In Echo Park, I, for one, became a Boy Scout. There was a neighbor across the street. The father was the scoutmaster. I had no problems. As a Jew, it just never became a question. Not alone did I not have any antagonism to being Jewish, but not even any interest in being Jewish in junior high, the second year in junior high. That was 1944, and there was a big influx of new Californians came in to be in the aircraft industry. And so in my class in the junior high school was an entire class of new immigrants, new kids. So the sense of being a stranger thrown into a new community didn't exist. We were all strangers, and we were our own community. My best friends turned out to be from North Dakota, and they're still friends of mine. You know, now 50, 80 years, 50, 60 years later, they're still my best friends.